You and I, we live in a world of nations. We take it for granted. But what if I told you that just a couple of centuries ago, the world as we know it, this map of countries with shared identities, it just didn't exist? Well, today we're going to dive into the story of how that world was born, all thanks to an idea that was both a dream of freedom and, well, a blueprint for war. That idea was nationalism.
And it all starts with a dream. This one, right here. An artist named Frederick Soriot painted this back in 1848. What you're seeing is his vision for a brand new world, all the peoples of Europe and America marching together, past the Statue of Liberty, each as their own distinct nation, but united in a kind of global brotherhood. It's a beautiful, hopeful vision, right? But to really get how radical this was, we first have to understand the world it was trying to replace.
So let's step back in time to the Europe of the mid-18th century. Forget the maps you know today. This was a world of empires, not nations. It was completely different. I mean, think about it. What we now call Germany or Italy, they were just a messy patchwork of kingdoms and little territories. Huge chunks of land were controlled by these massive multinational empires, like the Habsburg Empire. It ruled over Germans, Italians, Hungarians, Poles, Croats, you name it. And these people didn't see themselves as sharing some kind of collective identity. Nope. The only thing they really had in common was their allegiance to one guy, the emperor. And this detail from Soriot's painting just brilliantly shows the first step. For his dream to even have a chance, that old world of absolute kings and emperors had to be completely shattered. And look, right here in the foreground, you can see the proof. The broken crowns and scepters of that old order just lying in the dust. This wasn't just a pretty picture. It was a revolutionary demand. So where did the spark come from? Where did this all kick off? Well, it exploded in France in 1789, the French Revolution. That was the big bang that turned the fuzzy dream of a nation into a powerful political reality. And the absolute key here is this radical new idea of sovereignty. It was a bombshell. The revolution basically declared that ultimate power, the right to rule, no longer came from God or was handed down through a royal family. From now on, it came from the people, from a collective body of citizens. They would be the nation, and they would shape their own destiny. But look, a nation isn't just an idea. You have to actually build it. And the French revolutionaries took very real, practical steps to create this new shared identity. They pushed ideas like the fatherland and the citizen. They created a new flag, wrote new anthems, and even pushed one single language for everyone. They were actively, consciously creating a French people where before there had only been subjects of a king. And this idea, it spread like wildfire. The Austrian Chancellor, Duke Metternich, really hit the nail on the head. He was terrified of this new idea, and he famously said, "When France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold." And boy, was he right. As Napoleon's armies marched across Europe, they didn't just bring war, they carried the seeds of nationalism with them, inspiring liberals and revolutionaries in every single kingdom they set foot in. So, this basically set the stage for the defining conflict of the next 50 years. You can think of the first half of the 19th century as this huge, continent-wide tug-of-war. On one side, you had people trying to spread this revolutionary idea, and on the other, you had people trying to stomp it out. You can almost see the rhythm of the battle playing out right here. After Napoleon was defeated in 1815, the old monarchies tried to hit the rewind button and put everything back the way it was. But the idea just wouldn't die. It sparked the Greek War for Independence, then another revolution in France in 1830, and finally, this massive wave of uprisings all across the continent in 1848, which became known as the Springtime of Peoples. And the two sides couldn't have been more different. You had the liberal revolutionaries, mostly the educated middle class, who dreamed of nation-states created from below by the people themselves, with constitutions and parliaments. And then you had the conservative order, the kings and aristocrats, led by guys like Metternich, who were fighting to hang on to their power and restore order from above. But by 1850, it looked like the dream was over. This painting of a fallen Germania, who is a symbol of a united Germany, just captures the mood perfectly. The liberal revolutions of 1848 had pretty much all failed. In the end, the armies of the monarchs were just too strong, and the old order clamped down hard. But here's the crazy twist in the story. Nationalism didn't die. Instead, something really unexpected happened. It was captured and totally transformed by the very same conservatives who had fought so hard to destroy it. And you can meet the architect of this new approach right here, Otto von Bismarck of Prussia. This guy was no starry-eyed liberal.
Bismarck was a hard-nosed pragmatist. He looked at nationalism and realized, wow, this is an incredibly powerful force. And he figured, if you can't beat it, use it. Not for the people's freedom, but to make your own state more powerful.
So how did he do it? Not with speeches and voting. He did it, in his own famous words, with iron and blood. Under his leadership, Prussia basically weaponized nationalism. It used its powerful army to go out and unify Germany by force. They fought and won 3 short, decisive wars. And by 1871, a united German nation had been forged on the battlefield. And this painting, it tells you everything you need to know. Just look closely at who's actually in the room as the German Empire is being proclaimed. You don't see any elected representatives of the people, do you? You see princes, generals, and a whole sea of military uniforms. This wasn't a nation born from the people's will. This was a nation declared from the top down, built by Prussian military might. And this wasn't just a German thing. Italy followed a very similar playbook. After the early revolutionaries failed, the job of unifying the country was taken over by a monarchy, Sardinia-Piedmont, which used its army and smart diplomacy to pull the nation together.
So the nations were finally built. The map started to look a lot more like the one we know today. But this new, conservative, power-driven nationalism, it had a really dark side. The idea that started as this beautiful dream of liberty was about to enter its most dangerous phase.
By the end of the 19th century, that idealistic spirit was pretty much gone. Nationalism had warped into this narrow, aggressive belief system. Nationalist groups became more and more intolerant of each other. The goal was no longer just freedom for your people, it was about being better than and dominating everyone else.
And nowhere was this more explosive than in the Balkans. As the old Ottoman Empire started to fall apart, newly independent Slavic groups began fighting with each other over land. And of course, the great powers of Europe, Russia, Germany, Austria-Hungary, all jumped in, stirring the pot and using these local rivalries for their own gain. The whole region just became a powder keg waiting for a spark.
This image really shows how nationalism then fused with another aggressive force, imperialism. National pride was now the justification for going out and conquering other peoples all around the world. Having a huge empire became the ultimate proof of your nation's greatness. And this toxic brew of aggressive nationalism, imperial competition, and a massive arms race, well, it led Europe straight into the abyss. In 1914, that Balkan powder keg finally exploded, triggering the absolute catastrophe of the First World War. So, Soria's beautiful dream from 1848, his vision of a peaceful pact between nations, it had curdled into a nightmare of global conflict. And that whole story leaves us wrestling with a massive question, one that's just as relevant today as it was over a century ago. Where exactly is the line between healthy national pride and that dangerous slide towards conflict and domination?